Hey guys, welcome to Finally Clicked, the podcast where we discuss business, leadership, and personal development. My name is Margaret Smith, and I'm the Director of Operations for Pickett Street Properties, a real estate team out of Bothell, Washington. And I'll be here every week with our owner and team leader, Jesse D. Moore. We'll be digging into concepts and ideas that have helped us both personally and professionally. And you'll also get a chance to hear from local and national experts that we know provide massive value to get to the point where it all finally clicks. Hey guys, welcome to Finally Clicked with Jesse Moore and Margaret Smith.
Hello, Margaret.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you on this Thursday morning?
You know, it's been too much context. Can't tell them when we're recording.
Too much context? Dang it.
Well, it's a day of the week.
Just a day.
It's just a day.
Not even of the week, of the world.
It's a day in the life.
Yeah, day in the life. I like that.
Of the times of Jesse and Margaret. I am fine. No, we had a good week. We put a bunch of transactions into the escrow this week.
We needed that.
Millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Millions of dollars. And that helps.
Mm-hmm.
Helps me sleep better at night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's starting to warm up. The snow is turning into water.
I know. Is tomorrow the 1st? Today's the last day of the month, right?
It is.
So I have a bet going with my roommate that all the snow will be gone by March 1st, and I think I'm going to lose that bet.
I think you are.
Unfortunately, since I'm a Seattle native, I should be like on top of it, but I've never seen the snow stick around for this long.
Well, only because there's giant piles of snow.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, it's not fair. I'm going to lose $20 or a bottle of whatever he wants. Rum.
Just blame the fact that there's no climate change, and that'll stir him up. He'll forget all about the bet. Also, I wanted to tell you I finished the documentary that you asked me to watch.
Oh, you watched it all the way? Okay.
It's called Heal. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
And I'm just mentioning it in case some of our listeners want to watch it before our next ASMR and whiskey episode. Our 2-part series became a 3-part series midway, Lost podcast.
Yeah.
So maybe it becomes a 4-part series midway today. But hopefully we'll get an ASMR and whiskey episode in.
Oh, we better, because I just
right
worked
after
on the
our
caboodle
3-part.
kit. So the caboodle kit's in our
Caboodle
office,
kit.
just getting ready to use.
I'm kind of embarrassed I used that word.
I don't think you should be. It was epic.
My sister had a caboodle when she was a kid, so somehow that's etched
I thought it
into
was
my
the
mind.
perfect word for it, actually.
They were huge back then.
Yeah.
Did you have a caboodle?
I did not know.
Did you know what one was?
I mean, I remember there being caboodles, but
maybe I got the last.
it might be a Montana thing.
I'm just a little bit older,
Maybe.
and so
The
I
last
got
of
the
that.
last.
Is your sister older or younger than you?
Oh, you know what? That question annoyed me my entire life.
Why?
So guess which one she is.
I'm going to say younger.
Right.
Yeah.
Because people always asked who was older. We were often mistaken for twins, and then they'd ask who was older.
Yeah.
And then that chapped my hide.
You know, that did for me too, actually, now that I think about it. People always thought my brothers were older than me because they were taller.
Yeah, so golden rule, Margaret.
right?
Treat people how you want to be treated. Don't ask a question.
But you know
like
what?
that.
Now I don't care. I love it. People think I'm almost the young. I mean, the twins look still a little bit younger than me.
Like 37, you don't care?
I'm good with it.
I'm glad you got over it.
It took me a
I
couple
think
years.
I got over it at like 18. So,
I was not yet over it then.
well, apparently I'm not over it still. So there.
So there.
How did you like our last episode? Our last discussion on awareness?
Well, as a listener, because
Why
I
are
went
you
back and
laughing
listened,
at me?
because I think it's funny that you're asking me. For some reason, it seems humorous right
all
now.
this is a conversation between you and I.
I know.
Every
Sometimes
week.
I forget that other people are even listening, which, I mean, that should tell you something. I mean, I think this 3-part series, it's almost like we built the business off of this. This is how, I mean, I don't function without this, without self-awareness, authenticity, and then talking about boundaries. I mean, this is what my world revolves around now. And I've always been striving for authenticity, but I don't think I was aware of all the different topics that we talked about around awareness last time. I knew I was curious about myself and always open to talking, but I didn't understand exactly the purpose of it or like how to talk about it effectively. So when I listened back, and I've talked to several of our listeners who have listened 2, 3, and 4 times,
Right, it's nuts.
which is impressive. And I think the thing that struck people the most was your story and how open and vulnerable you were with it. And just the conversation that we had around it, because yet again, people kind of gloss over it, which is the same with authenticity. It's very loosely used and without a lot of context and without a lot of thought and explanation. And I think we can't just throw the word self-awareness and authenticity around without showing that we actually mean what we say. And I think we did that well last episode. So I enjoyed it. I listened to it 1.5 times.
1.5. Mm-hmm. You fell asleep.
I mean, because I was in the conversation and then no, I got out of my car and so, I paused it there.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is I think there is you know how there's in nature, like there's a snake that has a tail that mimics a bug.
It's an animal again.
And it attracts birds to it. Like a bird comes and tries to catch this bug. It's not a bug, it's the tail.
Say again, you started it with a snake?
Yeah, there's a snake that has its tail looks like a moth.
Oh, really?
Basically.
Okay.
And it looks like a moth that's kind of like hurt, right?
Okay, squirming
and so
around.
It kind of winds itself up, and then it has the tail out, and it kind of flickers.
And it catches the bird.
And the bird sees it, thinks it's a moth, and swoops down.
Perfect.
And when it grabs the tail,
are you trying to
the
say
snake
that we're like
let
that?
me talk, and I'll tell you. So
I'm going to find this thing right now.
The bird grabs the tail, the snake grabs the bird, and it's...
The circle of
life. My
life.
point is that there are mimics in nature. There are things that act like other things, right?
Yeah.
And they aren't authentically as they appear. And I feel like this discussion is important because there are victims in awareness clothing. There are victims in authenticity's clothing.
Oh, gosh.
And they wrap themselves in that, and they try to hide under the guise of awareness or under the guise of authenticity by saying things like, this is my truth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, this is my truth.
Yeah.
And that sounds like something that should be celebrated because it's true. Mm-hmm. But it's not. It's just a fit. They're throwing a fit. Mm-hmm. They're stomping their feet, and they're being victims. Mm-hmm. And so they know enough to know that they should be aware, and yet they mimic that quality.
Do you think they're mimicking because they're trying to find the path to truth, the path to authenticity?
I said last time awareness is a bitch.
Yeah.
It's a bitch because once you become aware, you can't become unaware.
Yep.
I actually thought about this, and maybe it's a bad analogy, maybe it's a great analogy. But becoming aware is a little bit like losing your virginity.
You went there. I was thinking about going there, but
But it really, I mean, the aspect of virginity is once you've had sex, you can't.
this is my favorite moment right now.
You can't like go backwards in time.
No, it's pretty much you can't.
Right?
It's impossible.
And it's the same thing with awareness. And so, also though, it's also similar to sex in that if you've had it one time, doesn't mean you're good at it, right? So
I'm loving this.
So
so
I
much
think
right
people have an idea. I think they get a taste of awareness and a taste of authenticity, and they move. Okay, let me say it this way: they get a taste of awareness, they start to move towards authenticity, and it's hard work.
Not to.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
And at some point, people get lazy, or their old habits take over.
Yeah.
And the victim, until you really become dedicated to not becoming a victim, then you aren't looking for the landmarks that show you that's the path you're on. You know, if someone is dedicated in being a victim, they'll put on the cloak of awareness and
The cloak of awareness.
and they will talk like a victim.
Yes.
But they'll act like they're aware.
Yes.
So
Amen.
by saying, "Hey, this is my truth,"
Yeah.
as in, "Shut up."
Yep.
This is my truth.
Yep.
I'm sorry. When do we factor in reality?
Yeah. Well, and one of the really easy ways that in my notes, one of the things I wrote down is you can figure out if they're wearing a cloak. You can tell, but if someone's not being honest, by their lack of consistency, because consistency will lead you to trust someone. Consistency with being authentic, consistency with developing awareness it's very apparent if you spend some time with someone.
So that's why I think authenticity is the next discussion, because awareness is not, it's a process.
Yep.
And you're moving towards authenticity. And you need to be able to differentiate between the people that are cloaking themselves in awareness and those that are actually trying to be aware. And how can you tell? I think you can tell by authenticity. As they develop in awareness, they're going to become truer and truer to their true nature. And there are rules to authenticity and I think that's absolutely what we need to discuss today.
Yeah, it's super hard for me to be around people, and yet, like we've talked about this before, can you help someone become aware? Not really. But when you're in a room with someone, or you're learning with someone, or you're in an industry with someone, and you recognize that they're not yet aware, but they're speaking that language, they're using the vocabulary, it's really hard.
See, again, it's just like virginity. You can wish
someone it's a great comparison.
Wasn't a virgin.
You could wish it all you want. The Bachelor right now, The Bachelor is a virgin, right? Geez. Talk about him.
I don't want this whole thing to come.
No, but I mean, it's just, I love that you brought that up, because it's very honest. It's how you and I would talk, and it's a very great comparison. So it's very hard for me to spend time around those people. And yeah, in my notes, I've written some things about that.
I'm dealing with this with a friend right now, and I'm stuck because I can't make this horse drink. Yeah. I've led it to water, and now I can't make it drink. And so it gets to a point where I've done everything I can, and now I just have to trust in the universe, or trust in time. Yeah. Trust that.
Well, you've planted a seed, and sometimes it takes a seed a while to grow, but it will always come up in their mind. And if they get that from enough people, like 2 or 3 people in their life, it might spark a question.
Well, for instance, if this person watched that documentary Heal, she or he would become more aware. However, if I recommend, hey, you should watch this documentary, now it becomes about my agenda. Sure, yeah. Jesse wants me to hear this because he thinks this. Yeah. It's not, they are becoming
I gotcha.
aware of their behavior on their own.
I got it.
And that's the only way it works.
It's so true. Yeah.
All right. Enough about awareness. Let's move on to authenticity.
Okay.
How do you want to start this off?
I was trying to think of some examples to give of how I've striven to really be my authentic self. I don't know that I can talk about it completely.
What? Why?
Well, some of it is very personal.
Oh, my goodness.
We started out talking about the definition last time, even though I said I didn't want to talk about the definition, and then I did.
Like in record time. Without a new breath. Yeah. You went from saying I don't want to
straight to it. And in my head, I skipped a part of my context by telling you that I didn't want to give you the dictionary definition. So
and then you gave me the dictionary definition.
When you and I first talked about being authentic back when I first started, the idea I had around it was just being myself, be me. That's what my mom had always taught me to be, just be me. And then I think the interesting discussion that you and I have had a few times now is, as you grow and develop personally and change, what got you where you are is not what's going to get you where you're going or where you're going to be. And coaches say that a lot, and that came up in a YouTube video I was just watching. And so that this woman talked about the paradox of authenticity. How do you remain true to who you are and your values, and understand that trying something new or developing doesn't take you away from who you really are? It doesn't take away your authenticity. And so being true to yourself, I wrote that down. Being sincere was another definition she talked about. And then she talked about where it came from in the Latin language, and it meant without wax. And I guess they used to have that outside of shops if they were artists and they had statues. Artists would use wax to hide the mistakes they made. And so if they didn't ever use wax, then they put that sign outside their shop. And I thought, what a great example of being authentic, not hiding your mistakes, not hiding like you haven't. You've been very open on this podcast so far with mistakes, as have I. And I think that leads to building trust with our listeners. It's what's led me to trust you, is that you are one of the few people in my life and in leadership and in real estate who's owned your mistakes. And I don't think people understand the power of that. People are so scared to do that, and actually it builds trust like nothing else.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what it did for you what it does for you that I own my mistakes.
I mean, it just builds loyalty and trust. It's
it really takes, what people need to understand about our relationship is that we trust each other absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not like you're willy-nilly, like just throwing out things, hey, Margaret, I did this wrong. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I trust you. No, because it's very valid and real.
But it means that I'm not doing anything to harm you.
Malicious, yes. You're not being purposefully malicious.
And I know that for you too.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that we don't interpret things incorrectly from time to time.
Yes.
And we don't get our feelings hurt.
Yeah.
But it means that because we're aware enough to own our mistakes and apologize for our behavior, that we can continue to develop our relationship together, which is going to be discussed a lot next week when we talk about boundaries. But what you just brought up is why I love the why I love language, why I love words.
Yeah.
You know that story of
that's so cool.
without wax,
yeah,
where you get down to the root, the origin of a word, and it tells a story like that.
That's pretty cool.
And it helps define the word, right? Just in the story of it. And so that idea that we're without, in today's day and age, I'd say without makeup or without Facetune.
Yeah.
Without filters.
Without a filter. Yeah.
Right? And not in a way that says you can say whatever you want to say, but that whatever you do is true.
Yeah.
And beautiful.
Yeah, I like, because people go the opposite direction and they're like, oh, you're not going to filter yourself. You're just going to blast the world. And no, it's being authentic is saying what you mean and being true to yourself and having tact, having grace, having compassion, and understanding that just being yourself and being authentic and having an opinion doesn't mean you get to blast people with it. And so helping people understand that part too, I think shows emotional intelligence, because there's many people that don't understand that.
So I'm so committed to authenticity. I think it's become a value. It's become a belief system for me. And when I talk about belief systems for myself, most often I talk about the 4 agreements, the book, the 4 agreements, and the actual 4 agreements. And that's like my moral code. That's the code I operate by. And I also live by authenticity. And I'm a little bit of a humanist, and I think we've talked about this. Have we talked about this on the podcast?
I don't know Humanism? If we have, actually,
okay.
Really.
So I just want to talk about it briefly
so
that we can understand authenticity this way. So humanism is the belief or the dogma of humanism is really, if you can imagine, if we take away all religion, all belief systems that believe in an afterlife, and we just assume there is no afterlife, then it makes our actions on earth now more impactful, I believe, right?
If there's no afterlife,
let's just say, let's assume there's no afterlife.
Why? I don't get that.
Well, because, and I was raised in the Protestant home, Protestant belief systems, Christian, right? That doctrine is very much weighted on the belief of an afterlife.
Sure.
And the reason why this distinction is important is that if you are a Christian and you are focused on the afterlife, what happens, right? That you go to heaven and that bad people go to hell. If that's your belief system, you are encouraged to begin to categorize people based on this belief that in the afterlife, people will be sorted.
I was thinking you were going to say you need to earn your way while you're here on earth I thought that's what you were going with that. Okay.
No, because in the Christian system, you could be a cad your entire life, and then in the last minute profess a belief and go to heaven, right? Yeah. So I think it devalues our time on earth. And it puts too much emphasis on the afterlife.
I hadn't thought about that.
And I'm not saying right or wrong or indifferent. In the context of this conversation, let's think about this.
Sure.
Who knows what happens when we die?
Yeah.
No, literally, who knows?
Nobody knows.
Exactly. So to me, if I don't know, here's what I know 100%. I don't know what happens when we die. If I know that to be true, how I spend my time on this earth matters more. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So to me, being a humanist, I value this time on earth more than, I would argue, more than Christians or Muslims or other belief systems that put such a stronger emphasis on what happens in the after death.
Interesting.
So what's great about this belief system for me as a humanist is that means that how I treat people here on earth matters a lot. And I'm not earning my way into heaven or hell, whatever the case may be. I am just saying, this is the time. All I know is this. I know that we have this time on earth, and I don't know anything more than that. And so I'm going to value this time on earth. I'm going to value it at such a higher level, right, with this belief system. So now, me being authentic, how important is that? If I think this is it.
Yeah.
Right? If I let go of a belief in an afterlife, our time on earth becomes very, very important. How we treat people, what I accomplish in that time period. So when we get to authenticity then, I think by being a humanist, it makes it easier. I think authenticity becomes more important. I think living an authentic life while you're on this earth becomes more important. And I think that's some of the problem that I have with other belief systems is it puts so much faith on things that are 100% unknown to the point where it changes who you are while you're on this earth. It changes how you behave. It changes how you treat people, who you allow in, who you allow out. You know what I mean?
I do. And I would say my only argument to that is that I think for most people, it's possible, yes, that it's changing how they think. But I have grown in how I've seen and understood religion, and that the part that I don't like about it is the organized part. Doesn't no matter the denomination or whatever.
I want to be clear. I'm not speaking against other belief
No.
systems.
I know. I'm actually just digging into I think in general, a lot of the population, a lot of humans are impacted or influenced by all sorts of different things, religion included. And you're absolutely right.
Well, your family does a great job. And so I want to be clear. I'm not.
No, I know you're not.
I'm a Christian. I'm not speaking against Christians. My Christianity.
I'm talking about religion as a whole. Yeah.
I understand. Yeah. And all I'm saying, your parents, though, are a great example of this, where they are Christians and they're humanists because I see how they treat people. And it doesn't, their other people's value systems or belief systems doesn't impact how your parents treat them.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not true of all people.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And so the reason I brought up this humanism is specifically to define authenticity from that standpoint. If we just assume for a minute that there's no afterlife, and then this is our
you're right. I mean, that humanizes everyone. That's how everybody should look at the world. That's very much how I look at the world.
I agree.
It's universal. We're all children of the universe.
And you can have your belief system, and if you still thought like a humanist, who does that hurt?
Compassion comes much easier when you think that way.
So let's define authenticity. So I pulled up an article from Psychology Today, and they honed in on 7 qualities of truly authentic people. Inversely, they also came up with what makes you inauthentic.
Yeah,
8
I like
things.
that article.
So do we want to talk about what makes us authentic first?
Sure, yeah.
Number 1, have realistic perceptions of reality. Awareness. That's basically awareness, right?
Yeah.
Have realistic perceptions of reality. That means you're not deluding yourself into thinking that you're better at something than you are, or that you deserve something more than other people.
It's so random that not random really, because we talk about stuff like this all the time, but I just spoke with someone yesterday in an interview, and she's talking herself through her growth, because she's about 27, 28 right now, and she's absolutely getting there. It's really cool to see like what's coming from her. And just a little bit that I know about her, somebody suggested to her, if you're not sure if you're rationalizing something, write down the truth for sure, like in the first line of what you know happened, what's factual, and then in the next paragraph write down all your feelings about it and why you feel that way, and like to kind of separate reality from emotion. And so for someone who's maybe struggling to figure out if they don't have the right perception of reality, that could be a good healthy exercise, because how does someone know if they have the right perception?
Well, and no one was better at rationalizing than me.
And we talked about that, I guess, last episode.
I don't know if we did, to the extent that I imagine in my head.
Like, no, we didn't talk about your rationalization. No, yeah.
But I mean, one of the main things I had to work on with therapy and everything else was that I had the ability to believe anything. Mm-hmm. I could make myself believe anything, as long as it served my will, right? And I could justify any behavior, partly because of how my brain works, which is my brain sees a situation or a problem or a conversation or anything, and then it goes into hyperdrive, and I think of every possible scenario and solution and event, and I choose the best one, and now that becomes my belief system. This becomes my truth, and then I use that to then justify behavior that hurts other people, or whatever the case is. It serves me, and I'm able to rationalize that it's justified. And it took me a long time to let go of that.
Well, I think you were the only one to protect yourself for a very long time.
Right. Jeez, Mo. Jeez.
Dropping the mic.
God.
And now you've realized you have
Just
people.
put an arrow right in my heart.
Now you realize you have people like me and other people that know you and will protect you too. And I think that's what's helped you. And like, just from my outside observation, what's helped you? You have Jill, you have your kids, you have a lot more than you used to have.
All right. Jesse's done talking.
I couldn't help myself.
No, it's true. It's true. Okay, number 2, are accepting of themselves and of other people.
Yeah, it's a huge one for me.
Goes back to that's humanism right
It's
there.
humanism,
right?
Yeah.
I think I'm just tired of religion marginalizing people.
I agree.
I just don't.
It happens across
We
denominations.
are way too tribal these days.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
People want to feel safe, I guess, feel part of a group that ultimately drives them to do stuff that they may not even be true to what their soul's telling them to do.
You know what? I hope I don't go off on a rant right here. But I think this digital era is forcing us to group ourselves in tribes. Yeah. Because we're not interacting as much.
It's very two-dimensional. Yeah.
We're not interacting socially, and we're not having breadth of experience that changes our perspective. And instead, we're being fed information that's already true to our belief system. Even this fake news stuff, it's reinforcing, it's targeted towards people to reinforce beliefs they already have for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And so I think in this digital era, I think it's easy for us to group ourselves as gamers, right? That play a specific game. And we know everything there is to know about that. And now we have friends because we have this shared interest versus a group of people that have varied interests that we are brought about together either through geographic proximity, schooling, education, games, like actual games like football, outdoor games. Yeah. And so I think because it's so easy to find people that have a shared and common interest now, it makes our perspective less diverse.
Yeah, if you're not aware of that. I think, so there's always going to be this deep longing for all humans to belong to something. And I think in the world, no matter what day and age it was, people grew up, I think about myself, I grew up feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. And I didn't have a group. I didn't have so I think people strive for that. So when they find online groups that they can become a part of, then they can add that to their repertoire of this is who I belong to. These are the different groups I belong to. And I remember thinking, well, I don't feel like I have a specific hobby that I love right now, like growing up in high school, college. I don't feel like I have like that passion that I'm supposed to have. Where's my group? Where do I belong? Why am I floating through here with no connection or nobody that wants me to be a part of their group? So I think it's a natural tendency, but you can, so it's not to say that being parts of these groups are wrong, but I think like what you're saying is have some awareness and that if you're a gamer and you love, I don't know, Mario Brothers, whatever it is, maybe go hang out with a group that does a different game because you might
Mario
find
Brothers?
out. You might find out.
Are you taking us back to the 80s?
Because that was my game, man.
I know, but
that
it's
was what
Fortnite.
I played.
It's Fortnite.
People are still, okay, Fortnite now. I did build forts, I guess, so I just was not a nightly thing. Apparently it's a nightly thing at your house.
Yeah, that's so cute, Margaret.
It's not, I know it's not a video game, but that was what I did. So apparently now people are Fortniting it in video games.
Well, the point is that I think it's become easier to box yourself into
100%.
one.
You have to be really aware that you don't keep yourself locked down like that.
Right.
You have to be very purposeful with putting yourself out of your comfort zone, which is very hard for people to do.
Number 3, authentic people are thoughtful.
This is interesting. I know authentic people that aren't necessarily very thoughtful.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think thoughtfulness might be an adjective that's interesting for me to add, because I think that has to do with natural personality tendencies too, or someone who's maybe got some. I think you can be authentic and not be entirely compassionate.
It doesn't say compassionate. It says thoughtful.
Okay, well, thoughtfulness and compassion are kind of similar.
No, they're
to me.
not. Words have meaning, Margaret.
I think to be thoughtful, you have to have some compassion.
But it doesn't.
Why would someone be thoughtful about me if they didn't give a shit?
Here's my point. It says authentic people are thoughtful. Mm-hmm. And I think thoughtful means that you think about someone other than yourself, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So compassion, let's put that to the side for a second.
All right.
Am I a thoughtful person?
Yes.
How thoughtful?
You're very thoughtful.
Very.
Yeah.
I thought I'd get like extremely, but I got a very. Right. So I think it just means that you listen, right? Like I thought, here's the thing. You and I have talked about this before. Jill and I have talked about, I'm a good boyfriend, mm-hmm. and I'm a good boyfriend because I'm a thoughtful mm-hmm. boyfriend, mm-hmm. and I'm thoughtful. And so I have the opportunity to talk to other guys that date, right? And they're terrible at it. Most men are very bad boyfriends.
Very, very bad. Yeah.
They're very bad. And why? Because they're not very thoughtful. They're not
Yeah.
paying attention.
Yeah.
Really, all it takes is paying attention. And that's what I tell
easy.
guys.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's not that hard. When they say they want something, pay attention.
Yeah.
Or they like something
Write it down.
on TV, or they like it in a magazine, pay attention.
Yeah.
So thoughtfulness is more about paying attention.
Okay.
Right? Than
I see what you
compassion.
mean. Yeah.
And so I think thoughtful people pay attention. They're active listeners. You know, when they're talking to you, when they're listening to you, they're actually listening to you. They're not thinking about what they're going to say next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
So I think it means more like engaged. And then compassionate.
Okay.
So do you still believe that authentic people that are not thoughtful?
I think I connect the word thoughtful with an act. I think that's what it's messing me up. So I see what you mean about being thoughtful. So maybe I just know people that don't act on their thoughts then. Like maybe they think about listening.
I wish you could give me an example without outing somebody.
I know.
You're a very thoughtful person. You're extremely thoughtful.
I really believe that's how you show love.
Oh, that's good. I think I believe that too.
I really do.
Yeah, when you do something unexpected for somebody,
Mm-hmm.
that really
most
is
people
a
don't
loving
do
act.
that. Yeah. I'll see if I can think of a person or an example.
All right, number 4, have a non-hostile sense of humor.
This is an interesting one. I remember reading that.
Totally true.
Yeah. Some people are very hostile in their humor, or it's passive aggressive. It's, yeah.
There's someone in this office, Market Center, who operates from this sense of humor, a hostile sense of humor. And here's what, and I'm not even talking about this person, okay? Let's just talk about people like this.
Yeah.
Do you know somebody who likes to make you uncomfortable? Like,
oh, sure.
Says a joke, knowing it's going to make things highly uncomfortable and awkward and
I've
weird.
been around a lot of men who like to make sexual jokes.
Sadly, it's true.
Yeah.
And not just sexual, but just highly
uncomfortable jokes.
For whatever reason.
Yeah. They just want to see a reaction.
They're making a joke that puts you in a place that is like, how do I respond to this?
Yep.
And it's interesting because more often than not, we want to err on the side of our we choose a response that's more passive than active.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So rather than saying that's highly inappropriate and I don't like it, you go, "Ooh, I didn't like it," and then you kind of laugh along with them,
or walk away
whatever.
or like, you don't respond directly to
But
it.
it's so funny to these people. They know it makes you uncomfortable. They know it's not actually funny for you.
Yeah.
And yet this is how they operate.
Yeah.
And I don't like those people.
Yeah.
I don't like being around them. I don't like talking to them. I don't like putting myself in situations where I have to be
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah. I mean, I purposefully don't spend time with people when I know they're like that. However, if I'm in a public situation with them, it doesn't bug me as much as it used to because I know it comes from a place of there's something wrong with them. Like there's something, they have low self-esteem. They have some sort of like, that's where my understanding comes in. And I'm like, it doesn't mean I tolerate it. I'm not going to be friends with them. I'm not going to be close with them. But whenever anybody does something that is not appropriate, not kind, not compassionate, not anything, not right, essentially, I'm always like, why are they doing that? Okay, I can get it. It doesn't mean I agree with it or I like it, but I'm not going to tolerate it.
Well, to me, they're a bully.
Yeah.
And I don't like bullies.
Yeah. And I've gotten better at it, but I still have some ways to go in terms of being able to stand up to someone that I don't know that well.
It's a consistent communication I have with my kids. I mean, Sayla wouldn't hurt a fly.
No, God. And neither would David.
She wouldn't bully anybody.
Yeah.
But, David can. Are you kidding? David, my son is 10 years old. He looks like he's 14. I'm not kidding. This kid is as tall as my fiance. And he's head and shoulder above most kids his age.
Yeah.
And you forget that he's 10 years old. Everyone treats him like a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old because he looks like one.
That's an issue.
But he's a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
He just turned 10.
Yeah.
Like he's a baby 10.
People have to remember that.
I have to remember it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: when you are in a 14-year-old body and you have a 10-year-old mind, it's easy to bully kids. It just is.
So is he struggling with that? Like
it comes up, and it's not that he's
not being
David's
malicious.
got a gentle heart.
Yeah.
He's a gentle
no, but
heart.
he's realized he's probably bigger, stronger.
It's just easy for him.
Yeah.
To do it.
Sure.
And it's more verbal. It's not confrontational. It's not really even physical.
Yeah.
It's more verbal than
I was gonna
anything.
say, I can't see him do anything physical.
But it's the number one thing I work on him with.
That's good.
Because I see it in him and I won't stand for it.
Yeah.
And I was similar in many ways as a kid, and I want him to make adjustments sooner than I did. So
That's good.
number 5, are able to express their emotions freely and clearly. That's important.
Yeah.
I'm just barely getting to this part. I think this is a thing that has been the hardest for me, and it's new for me, probably in the last 2 years. But I think it's still the one out of all of these. This is probably the one I'm working on still.
Yeah.
Because I'm such a passionate person.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And maybe this is where I need you to chime in, because I don't know if I'm rationalizing, but I don't know that I don't think I'm quick to anger.
Oh, quick to anger in anything? I think you used to be, not anymore.
So even now, even before, I don't think I was quick to anger. I just got so frustrated by people not understanding me.
Yeah, and I think I interpreted frustration as anger.
That it would turn into anger.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to talk about sensitive things or
there's no quicker way to get me to connect with someone than to be vulnerable and share your feelings with me. And so I've always been very open and vulnerable with people. Something that I wrote down when I was thinking about this episode was I don't actually have a problem telling people literally anything about myself. I just have not been able to do it as clearly as I can now because I had to learn how to express certain emotions I didn't have words for. So that's something that I've learned over the last 4 or 5 years. But I've always, because I realized from a young age, I didn't do things that other people did in high school. Like I didn't group myself with certain people because I didn't I would feel in my body so passionately that it was wrong or it wasn't what I should be doing. So I don't know, whatever my soul was telling me was not right. I would go off and do my own thing. And so I was very honest with people, and they were always shocked by my honesty. Wow, that's very honest of you to tell me that. I heard that over and over and over again.
I think that's a common trait between you and I. We're very self-effacing.
Yeah.
And so, we know our foibles. We know our flaws.
Nothing to hide.
Right?
Yeah.
And being honest about it is...
If I had to live where I couldn't be myself, I literally would be so exhausted every day that I wouldn't be able to make it to work. Like, if I had to be someone, pretend like I was someone else, I couldn't
I did it
do
for 34 years.
I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you did it.
It didn't end well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember sitting in conversations and people, I remember it distinctly as an example. I was sitting with my friend Gwyneth in college and we were talking to her friend. I forget what his name was. He was so cute too.
Well, we don't need to out him.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. And I was very open with him about something about a relationship I was in. And Gwyneth looked at me and she's like, wow, that was honest. And I said, well, what do I have to hide? Like, what's the point? I don't know. That being said, I don't tell everybody all my personal stuff. But I think I realized early on the freedom in it and how good it made me feel. And I can't deny myself that feeling.
So I want to bring this up because this is a factor in team building, is that we hire people knowing that measuring against the knowledge that we're going to have to be super transparent with these people, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we don't hire people that we don't trust, right? No. So when we go through the hiring process, this is something we look for is, are they going to be transparent? Mm-hmm. Are they going to be trustworthy? Mm-hmm. Because we want to live authentically.
Well, and all of that translates to business. If we can't trust them with the business, that's a big deal. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that companies get wrong, small, big, I don't care what size they are, because whether you like it or not, everybody's personal life intertwines with professional life. And if you don't address it, you're not going to ever be as successful as you could be. And so we absolutely look for people we can trust. And if things come out, and they own it, maybe in the process after we've hired them, or they own their mistake, that's great. If they don't own it, that's a huge red flag. Yeah. So yeah, totally.
All right. Number 6, are open to learning from their mistakes.
Yeah. Just said that. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a duh. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think it's really hard for me as someone who wants to do well for other people. It's hard for me when I make mistakes. And I have no problem owning that. My problem's not owning it. My problem isn't getting past it.
No, it's true for you.
I hate
you seldom
letting
make
people
mistakes,
down.
And when you do, man alive.
It's bad. I feel it in my whole body.
Nothing else matters. Your only focus is on fixing that mistake.
Because I think I told you as an example one time for people, we were going down to Las Vegas for a conference, and I booked the hotel rooms incorrectly. So it was going to be $5,000 instead of $1,500 or something ridiculous. I found out as I was boarding the plane to go to Las Vegas. Immediately, I'm like, so this to show you guys how I think. Every action in the first 3 years of working with anybody, and really my whole life, I'm this way. Everything I do, I follow through to the T because it builds trust. I want nothing more with other humans than complete and utter trust. So when I break,
that's all?
Yeah, that's it. That's all I want, people. That's it. So when I do something like that, and even though it's not on purpose, immediately I understand the implications. The implications are not just with you, because I had built pretty good trust with you. You know I didn't do it on purpose. But the agents that were on the team, Margaret made a mistake. So then in their mind, for future, at least the next couple months, remember when Margaret made that mistake? Oh, do you think she did this project correctly? Do you think she did this? Do you think she remembered this? It puts in your head some sort of like a roadblock for a little bit of time until I can build that back up. So it's probably selfish, because it's going back to me thinking I've done all this freaking work and I just blew that work and now I got to do it again. And I'm like, so I'm more pissed at myself than I am anything else.
I think about this a lot, having kids, is letting them be able to make mistakes that they can learn from.
Because they got to make mistakes.
Right? Like, it's so,
I wish I'd made a lot more mistakes.
And I don't want to be a helicopter parent. And thankfully, my kids are at the age now where this is where I have to start to let them make mistakes.
Yeah.
They're 10 and 12. This is when they need to learn that they are going to make mistakes and how to deal with making mistakes and what that means. And it means that I have to be less controlling. Yeah. And let it happen.
It's true. And so, I mean, because that is one of the things that I wish I had done more when I was a kid. I wish from the ages of 5 to 15, I had openly made more mistakes, because I'd be even further along than I am now. But I was so concerned about really pleasing my parents, because they were they gave me all the trust in the world, so I didn't want to let them down. And also, I didn't know what I liked, so why not try more things? Why not fail more? It would have gotten me where I am faster. And then again, everything happens for a reason, blah, blah, blah. So,
Blah, blah, blah.
blah, blah, blah.
Number 7, unauthentic people understand their motivations.
Their own personal motivations.
Yes, their motivations.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think and that's important. If you don't have awareness, then you may not think about why you do the things that you do.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you become aware, then you start to think about, why do I do this thing that makes people run away from me?
Probably freaks some people out when they realize, oh my gosh, my motivation's not sincere. It's not coming from a good place. What's wrong with me?
That's why awareness is a bitch.
Yeah.
Is because all of a sudden you see the world differently.
Yeah.
And you see your actions differently.
Yeah.
You understand the impact of it.
That's a really crazy bunny hole we could go down, a rabbit hole.
A bunny hole? Can you explain the difference between a rabbit hole and a bunny hole?
A bunny hole's slightly smaller.
Oh my goodness. I can't go down a bunny hole. I need it to be bigger.
God, I just got off track.
A bunny hole. All right, let's go down the bunny hole.
So going down the bunny hole, gosh, now I'm going to forget where I was going with that. Oh, I mean, that's the next step after you have some awareness, right? Is probably people realizing it's probably what they talk about in counseling. I'm sure I will need to go there at some point. You have some self-awareness. You realize maybe you had the wrong motivation. Then you realize I learned that from someone. And you begin to understand the root of where you became who you are.
Yeah.
And so it takes the responsibility off you a little bit to maybe lessen some guilt, but at the same time, you're the one that's been doing this for however long it is, whatever this is.
Are you going to throw another arrow at my Achilles heel? Is that what you're prepping me for?
No, I'm not even thinking about that. I just think it's a really... I mean, it's scary, and at the same time, it's so exciting because at that moment, you can begin, whoever you are, to change your trajectory. And like Enme says, we're all here for the highest and best good of everything. Our decisions should be made in honor of the highest and best for everyone around you. Do
you have an example of when you had awareness about your behavior and then recognized the source of it?
Sure. Yeah. I'm thinking of one in particular. I have a more recent one. I don't think I have an older one. So when I met with Enme, one of the things she talked to me about was that some of the fear that my mom has about certain things in life, I have encompassed that story.
Right.
And I hadn't really realized that completely. And I'm very aware about a lot of things and how all the positive things that my mom has done for me completely. But my mom has a fear of traveling. I don't know exactly why. It's not just the plane. It's loss of control. And I don't have that actually the same fear, but I live in her fear. So that's my most recent example.
How has awareness of that changed it?
Well, I've traveled more the last couple years, and I've just had to let go of understanding that it might scare her, hurt her feelings. I want to hurt her feelings. I worry about that a lot. But if I talk to her about it, I have to let her kind of sit in that fear, and I can't be there with her. And it'd
be hard if I was Mary Smith and I had you as a daughter. I'd be
pretty hard.
Fearful. Fear doesn't have a lot of weight with you.
No, it doesn't at all. But what has the weight with me is hurting other people or putting my mom in a place of pain, and so that's what holds me back. I don't fear traveling like she does. I don't fear a lot of things like money or having a lack of money or lack of someone to take care of me.
I wish I had your fearful.
Well, she gave it to me. As much as she's afraid of things, she and my dad gave me that fearlessness because it's the love.
I know, but like I operate from fear a lot.
Yeah.
But I have to overcome it.
Yeah.
I do it in spite of it.
Well, and I still fear things. Absolutely. It's not the same level of fear as you.
I don't have the same carefree abandon that you do.
Yeah. It's true. I know. It comes from unconditional love, and that's why I'm a proponent of love.
Oh, geez, there's that Achilles heel. God.
That's why I'm such a proponent of love. I mean, people talk to me all the time about how do you love people that are such awful people or such haters on you or give you such crap all the time. And I'm like, if we all just started to unconditionally love people a lot more and show compassion and show thoughtfulness and all these things, I actually do believe, as naive as it may sound, that it would change the world.
Okay, so note, you might want to write this down. When we talk about boundaries, we're going to have to talk about what boundaries look like in the face of unconditional love.
100% I need help with that. In the face of unconditional love. What a great title.
How do those things live together?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to read through those real quick, just to summarize for those taking notes at home. Authentic people, number 1, have realistic perceptions of reality. Number 2, are accepting of themselves and of other people. Number 3, are thoughtful. Number 4, have a non-hostile sense of humor. Number 5, are able to express their emotions freely and clearly. Number 6, are open to learning from their mistakes. Number 7, understand their motivations.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that's a great article.
Let's talk about inauthentic people. Inauthentic people are self-deceptive and unrealistic in their perceptions of reality.
I feel so bad for them.
Well, it speaks of us also. You weren't always authentic.
Well, no.
I was not always authentic. Self-deception is, there is an amazing book for anyone out there that wants a resource. If you think you rationalize too much or...
what is it? I want to write it down.
You know it.
Is it?
Leadership and Self-Deception.
Okay, yes. Okay. I'll put the link.
So it's by the Arbinger Group. It's called Leadership and Self-Deception. If you join Pickett Street Properties, you have to read this book. Like it's part of our training program.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's so important is because if you're deceiving yourself, you don't know you're being self-deceptive.
No, you don't.
That's where awareness comes in.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why it's so funny to me that we can then read this and it says, basically it's saying you have to be aware. And if you're not aware, you're inauthentic. Mm-hmm. So awareness is absolutely tied to authenticity. You have to, and that's why we're doing it in this order. I just love it when we think of things and then we find evidence to prove us right. Uh-huh. It's called confirmation bias, but let's not worry about that. So yeah, that's why you have to have awareness first. So number 2, look to others for approval and to feel valued. I used to be the worst at this. Margaret's hiding behind her microphone because she knows this is true about me.
It's true.
I was a validation junkie, and it was bad, right?
Yeah.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
And again, Margaret will say something to just, cut me right to the quick about how that's probably a manifestation of a lack of unconditional love and a sense of abandonment.
You said it for me.
Yep. I'm choking on my own words. But here's a phrase that I used to use all the time that I thought was cute and worked for me as a script. And now I hate it. And I don't like to hear it from other people. You used it with me recently. Oh. And it's only because I love you that I responded. Because I have grace. Mm-hmm. There are times when we all need validation, period. We have bad days. We get in our head. We get in a negative thinking loop. Validation is a good way to break that cycle a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Get an outside perspective. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I used to say all the time when I needed validation was, tell me something good, right? Mm-hmm. I hate that phrase now. Mm-hmm. And the reason I hate it is because I understand it now. I understand what the request is for. Mm-hmm. The request is for validation.
Mm-hmm. Not always.
Most of the time. Most of the time, it's. I think it's a victim. I think it's a victim trait. Because I think you're throwing up your hands and you're saying, "I can't do it." Like everything's going bad. Everything's wrong. And I think it was a way for me to. It was me being mired in a pit of despair and self-loathing. And I was looking for you to throw me a rope.
Sure, yeah.
So.
For me, when I think of that phrase, I absolutely have that phrase emblazoned in my mind.
Why?
The number of times you had sent it to me via text or said it to me or whatever, and I totally get that. For me, I remember distinctly now when I sent that to you via text a couple weeks ago or whenever. For me, it's, I hope I wasn't being a victim. I think I am such a positive ray of sunshine so much of the time. It's usually when it just goes dim for a second where I'm like, hey, can you just light me back up? Like,
I know.
Don't have to say something good about me. Just tell me something good about the business, or like what's going on tomorrow that's going to make it like, that's something to look forward to. But I totally understand what,
but
you.
it's still relying on an external.
Oh, sure. But I rely on external.
Value.
I rely on external things to keep me pumped up and psyched up. And
I disagree. You can use external things, but you're getting them.
I mean, I have internal validation for sure.
No, but even if you use outside experiences, it's you finding that validation, and using it, and it's totally different to go and look for other people to mine it for you.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm thinking of like Tony Robbins or like people that I go to, like Gary Vaynerchuk.
That's fine. That's you seeking it out. That's different than saying to the
someone
people
to
close
someone else,
to you,
pump me up.
Hey, tell me something good. And here's why. Because I think it's all about gratitude. Right? Mm-hmm. I think in that moment you are, and I'm not getting on your case, okay?
No.
And I'll talk about me if you prefer.
No, it's okay.
But in that moment, you are unable to some degree, to be grateful for something, because everything is going wrong, or everything is negative, or you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
And so rather than you having some self-awareness and being able to remind yourself or ground yourself with a grateful thought.
No, I can agree with that. I was probably exhausted.
Yeah, and we all have that from time to time. And that's that's why you wouldn't have asked many people.
No, I didn't ask anybody else.
You just asked me. And I have the grace to give that to you, right? But I reckon, it
didn't it put you in a
me
spin?
It hit me like a bag of concrete, because I remembered all the times I said it, and I remember, I realized what it meant then, you know. All right. Why do we do this?
It's a deep episode.
All right. Number 5. Inauthentic people have a hostile sense of humor. Already discussed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 6, are unable to express their emotions freely and clearly.
Yeah.
You know those people you're afraid to bring things up with because it's like riling up a snake, poking a bear.
A reactive explosion is going to happen with people like that. And so that being said, sometimes you still have to do it, and you should do it because they're going to have to get used to it. And the more times that they do it, hopefully they learn that the same reaction they get from the person they're yelling at or screaming at or having that like explosion of all these different things coming out, maybe they'll learn from it. But yeah, that's typically what happens.
Yeah. Number 7, are not open to learning from their mistakes. Number 8, do not understand their motivations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's some subconscious motivations that happen for people that they're not even aware of. That's the hard thing, is like I can see through that, not with everybody, but there's some people I can see, and it's like they're saying one thing, trying to be authentic, saying this is what their motivation is, and then I'm like, yeah. But everything underlying, there's like this thing on this flow of energy underlying, and this flow of, you can catch it in their body language and what they say and what they do, their actions. You can see what their real motivation is. And it's so hard to help. I mean, again, you can't help someone see that, but it shines through in a real big way. And it's why they typically don't have a lot of people that believe in them. Or if they have people that believe in them, they're not the people you really want to have believe in you. It's just, it becomes glaring.
So now that we've defined authenticity and we've defined inauthenticity, I kind of want to talk about why it's important to us. And I feel odd talking about this a little bit, because for you to understand what authenticity means to me, I feel like I'd have to expose a lot of people that I don't want to expose. And so I'm going to try to talk about this briefly and as transparently as possible without impacting other people in a negative way. But I want people to understand that I have been on a journey to become my most authentic self. And I didn't start until 34 years old. That's when awareness entered my life. And then on that journey of awareness, I then sought to be authentic, because I realized it was incongruent with every aspect of my life. I was effectively pretending to be somebody I wasn't because I didn't value who I was, or who I was wasn't valued. I had been shown time and time again that I wasn't able to be authentic, that the times that I was authentic, I suffered in giant ways. And so I had learned over time that I had to bend and flex and pretend and act to keep everyone happy. And eventually that erodes everything. That you can't do that for
you reached your
the rest of your
point.
life.
Yeah.
I did it for a very long time.
Long time.
And I learned a lot of bad habits. And we've talked about it. I could rationalize anything. I was a narcissist. I hurt people, and I was a liar, and I was inauthentic. And the awareness being a bitch is true because I couldn't live that way any longer, and I didn't like those things about myself, and I've become someone totally different. I am true to my word. I do what I say I'm going to do. I don't lie, even when it's uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortably honest now. Like, if you don't want to know, don't ask me, because I'm going to tell you the truth. And it has not been easy. I've lost friends. I've lost entire sphere of influence. I feel like I've had to start over 100% brand new. Because the people that knew me before didn't know me. They thought they knew me. I'm sure they feel betrayed. I know some do or did. And really, I can't focus on that. I have to just go in the direction that is, and I don't mean this is my truth. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I'm recognizing that being anything other than what I'm meant to be doesn't work for me. And I can only have peace in my life if I live authentically. And I can't suffer inauthenticity anymore. I can see it coming a mile away, and I just can't be in the presence of it. It's made me more peaceful. I feel wiser. I'm more in control of my emotions. I'm more in control of my destiny. I'm easier to be around. I'm more pleasant to be around. I'm less prone to anger. And I'm still getting used to this new skin. So I would rather be authentic and alone than to be inauthentic with everything. I just can't do it. I did it for so long, and it made me so miserable that I never want to go back to it.
Well, it's no wonder to me that you try to run far from inauthentic people or things when you've done such hard work to become authentic, to become your real self, that when you see that coming a mile away, you're like, stay away from me.
So, authenticity is important. Why, Margaret? Why? I just said why it's important to me. Why is it important to you?
Number one reason is peace.
Right?
Yeah. Because if we're, like you said, you were talking about earlier, any amount of time that we have on this earth, if we're not spending it being who we are truly to the core at our soul, what's the point? Period.
Yeah, and just there's no rule book or guidebook or direction manual on how to do this, how to be a human, how to live, and most effectively. There's tons of books out there that can help, and you have to figure out what resonates with you and what's true with you. We are talking about this because we get to choose what we talk about, and this is important to us.
And this is who we choose to work with. This is who we choose to spend time with. This is how we build our business. It's based on partnerships with people that are authentic.
Well, and here's the thing. It now differentiates between, it's easy for us to differentiate between who we're going to work with and who we won't.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit odd because it's a much smaller pool of people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And in business, I want to work with as many people as possible, but I've had to limit myself to who I can work with because of this. But peace,
I think
that's because peace is more important to me than money in the bank.
Well, and ultimately, if we chose otherwise, it probably wouldn't work out business-wise. if we had
And money in the
prioritized
bank
that.
will follow.
Yeah,
right.
it will. Yeah.
Like I know that to be true.
Yeah.
But having to recreate a new sphere of influence is
It's a big deal.
no fun.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
And I wouldn't recommend it. But I guess, you know what? If I was David Goggins, this is my third week in Hell Week. You know, like I knew what this was going to cost me. I knew that it would be hard for a while, and I chose it 100% to do it.
Well, I think it says a lot too for your kids.
I had to do it for my kids.
Yeah.
Being the son and daughter of a narcissist is no picnic.
Yeah.
And when I had the awareness that I was a narcissist and I understood what that meant and the impact it had on the people around me, I had no choice but to fix it.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you for
this is
sharing
such a great
so much.
episode. Well, this should be a drinking episode. We are filming this in the morning, and I don't care. I should have brought whiskey in here. Goodness gracious. I'm way too sober for this conversation.
Well, you have an amazing story. And I know the people that are listening 2, 3, 4 times over, it's because that authenticity and that absolute real story that you bring is what they are attracted to. It's what every human actually really wants. And that's why it's awesome. That's why it's amazing that you're open to sharing that, because it's only going to bring you more opportunity, more joy, more peace. That's what I believe. That's what I've seen happen to me.
I love it when we figure out life hacks, you know? And so what I mean by that
is totally a life hack.
Is when we figured out we wanted to talk about authenticity. Everything was about this conversation right now. And we decided before we could talk about that, we had to talk about awareness. And then in the middle of that discussion, I realized that boundaries is what follows authenticity. And so then that's a life hack. I just figured something out, that it's awareness, authenticity, and then boundaries. Yeah. And then as we research this and as we look for information, we find this to be true. It's confirmed. And so I love this 3-part series for that reason.
Yeah.
I think it's powerful. Meaningful, impactful. I think it has to be talked about. I don't know that people are talking about it other than...
Not at a really deep level.
No, it's like meme worthy, right? Like this, we're talking about stuff that people put on a meme on their Facebook wall. Yep. Not have an hour discussion about. Yep. So. Yeah. So I appreciate everybody that's listening. And if you're listening multiple times, good on you. Yeah. Good for you. Yeah. For wanting to better yourself. Totally. And if you want to share this episode and something that really stuck out to you, share it and tag us. I love that. A ton of laughter in this one. No. Well, I like how we switch it up, though. We laugh a lot one episode. We giggle. We do awesome, I feel like we need a good laugh to kind of round things out. Okay. I mean, I don't really have jokes on hand. Like. Oh, tell us a joke. Tell us a joke, Margaret. Oh, no. I don't have a joke, but I only have an example of a pun that I used. Oh, my gosh. I hate puns so just to give you guys some context, there's a guy in our office who says puns all the time. I feel like puns are the worst form of humor. Well, they pretty much are like really hard for me to... They're the worst dad jokes of all time. So my dad's actually not a big punner. He's a joke teller. But anyhow, this guy has puns for days. So I've made it why did I ask for this? So I've made it my thing. Can I choose my own adventure and choose a different option? I think you'll like this though. So I told him, I was like, so then I just slipped one into the conversation because we were talking about... Oh, no, this is probably not good. If I don't laugh, don't be offended. Well, we were talking about working out or something, and I said, I do yoga because I am not going to run. Like, have you seen me? Like, I'm carrying a 10-pound baby on my back. Like, it was funnier in person. It's not really funny. Even a pun. What are you talking about? What's the pun? You had to be there. No, I don't have to be there. He'll get it if he hears this. 10-pound baby. Why are you carrying a 10-pound baby? Because my butt. It's not on your back. I know, but it's basically on my back. Oh, my goodness. You would have gotten it if you were there. It's not even a pun. This is a good example of how it doesn't take much to make me happy. I'm so happy for you. I don't have anything else to tell you that's funny. Your laughter is sufficient.
Okay, good.
All right, let's go back to work.
All right.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
See you guys next time for Boundaries.